Hey everyone, it is Nina and I'm going to be talking about manifestor rest cycles in this video. So if you are not familiar with what a manifestor rest cycle is, typically as a manifestor we get these big urges, these big downloads that we're here to birth into the world and to initiate and bring this newness into this world. And once we are finished with that urge, we tend to go into these rest cycles in order to recover because we've put all of our energy into these big urges, and so we need this downtime for our bodies to really just like rest and restore, and also create space in order to have the next urge come through. And if we don't allow ourselves to have these rest cycles, we're not going to be able to kind of like recharge our batteries in a way so that when we do get our next urge, whether it's small or medium or big, like we're just not going to have that full oomph to like put energy into it because we have not given ourselves that rest. And so in this video, I'm going to be sharing my own experience of what my patterns were and how I have kind of found a little bit more of a flow with my urges. And I know when I'm tired and I know when an urge is coming through and what that really means, especially as an emotional being, because you know, someone like a manifestor who may be splenic or have defined ego center as their authority, you're like, those manifestors are gonna have, you know, their urges come through differently and they're gonna execute it like right off the bat, versus emotional manifestors, we're gonna get these ideas and we're gonna need to sit through the highs and the lows of them before we actually like execute on those urges. And sometimes for me personally, I've gotten urges for things and I've waited a year or two kind of just sitting on it until like one day I woke up and I was like, it's just time. And I just knew. And so it's like, I don't know how to explain it other than there's like this magical like switch that just like flips within me. And I'm like, all right, I've got this idea. And it's almost like I get these blinders and I'm just like so focused on this idea and it's all I can think about. It's all I can consume. Like I'm like consumed by that idea. And I put all of my time and my energy and effort into that. And sometimes it might be for one day, it might be for an entire week. Like for example, you know, I had an urge to do like a redesign for my business, and I spent the entire week like heads down for like 15 hours a day working on it and just having so much fun creating it. And then when it was done, it was done. And it was like in an awkward time period where I was like around family and I was like, I need to be with family. And so it's like, we don't have control over these urges. But then when it was done, like I knew, and then I was like, okay, I can rest and I can just chill out for a second. And so that is why manifestors, we may not have necessarily like a really consistent schedule and the way that we go about things and the way that we create because we have these ebbs and these flows in our energy cycles. And so like projectors and other like non-sacral beings, so the projector and the reflector, they may do really well taking naps throughout the day, every single day, and they have like this consistent way of resting. With manifestors, it's not like, oh, we're gonna take a nap and we get that rest and we're good to go. Like it's very much like we have this really powerful source energy that is like throttling and channeling through us, and we are birthing something into the world, and it takes a lot of energy and effort in order for that to happen. And then when it is done, like our bodies need rest. Like 1 or 2 naps is not just going to cut it. And so that is what I really want to talk about today, is that like the importance of our rest cycles, because we cannot fully like step into our purpose as manifestors and really execute our urges if we are not giving ourselves enough adequate rest. Because during that rest period is when we're recovering. It's when we are refilling our banks and our energy banks and our fuel for the execution of the next urge that's going to come through. Because when that next urge comes through, if we have not rested enough, we're not going to have that full force energy to execute whatever it is that we're here to birth into the world. And so then it's like this perpetual cycle of not having enough energy or like just feeling burnt out all the time. And that was kind of, you know, my story and what I really struggled with. So I'm going to go through and just kind of share my journey with my rest cycles and my trial and erroring as a 6 line before my Saturn return and then after. So once I learned about human design, it became much more easier for me to say like, oh, okay, I know when it's time to rest, even though my mind was like, no, I need to go and do. And then when I was actually resting and I was like, oh, I have to rest. And like, and when I say rest, I mean, it's like, you don't do like nothing. It's just, for me personally, I'm doing more gentle activities. I'm not constantly like filling my mind with things. I'm not like full force in projects. I'm kind of just like, it's almost like I'm relaxing into my body and I'm not like feeling the need to go do something. So my journey with the rest cycles as a manifestor is I didn't know what an urge or rest cycle was. And as I reflect back on the first like 30 years of my life before I even heard about human design, I could see it was a very blurred line. Like I didn't really know. I was just constantly burnt out. And on the weekends would be like the days that I would just like crash because I would be go during the week. And I would be, teaching yoga or working a full-time job, 40, 50 hours a week. And so by the time I got to the weekend, it was like I would just be in bed until like noon on the weekends because my body was just so burnt out. And so I didn't really have like a lot of urges come through, and I felt like my creativity was also really squashed in a way because I wasn't giving myself that rest time in order for energy or source or whatever to be able to come to me, because I was just so depleted that I had no energy to receive or to give. And so around age, was it like 28 or 29, like I lost my job. I didn't really work for about a year or so. And this was actually like really healthy for me because I was able to basically sleep in every single day. It was the first time that I really had a lot of physical rest. And while financially it was really difficult for me, it was actually really amazing that I went through that time period because I was able to go through and have time for recovery and for new ideas to come through and for my body to heal from like years and years and years of just overdoing it, pushing it. I was still trial and erroring and learning. I didn't know about human design at that point. So when I did find work, I ended up taking on 3 different jobs. I was doing personal training. I was managing a team of developers in Poland. I was working remotely, and I was taking on other contract jobs at the same time. And so it was almost like coming from this place of lack. So there are these layers too, as you're learning to find that groove with your rest cycle. There are layers of like security or lack or like fears that come up that need to be addressed as well. They're not bad. They're just things to be aware of and how they actually affect like your perception of reality or how you decide to make decisions in your life, because that can be a really huge factor on how fully you're able to relax into your rest cycle, because you can be in a rest cycle but kind of like be on edge, which is how I have behaved in the past, is because I'm like, oh, where am I going to find money and like all these things. But it's this process of becoming more and more aware of yourself and your patterns and finding this groove where you're like, okay, I've set myself up so that when my urge is done and I'm going into a rest cycle, financially I am set up for that. And so that is something that takes time once you start to become aware of it. So I just really want to add that in because I know it can be very like, there can be fear attached to living or stepping into this way of like these highs and these lows, because there isn't necessarily like this consistency with being a manifestor, because we go to extremes with our urges and then we go hard with our rest cycles as well. And so we need to be able to be mindful of that to be able to set ourselves up for success regardless of what period that we are in, that urge and that go and execute or initiate, and then also the rest cycle. So with that being said, after I like took on all those jobs, I worked for like 9 or 10 months until I got so overwhelmed and burnt out, quit my jobs, stopped working, and I think I had surgery at that time period. So it was like I was kind of forced to rest again. And because I was able to rest, I had another urge come through where I created I think I made like an online workout guide. And that was kind of like the beginning of really starting to tap into and honor these creative ideas that were coming through for me. I started working again after a couple of months, and during that time period, I wasn't going as hard. I wasn't working like a ton of hours. I was maybe working 30 to 40 hours a week, or 20 to 40 hours a week. I was working part remote, which was actually really healthy because I wasn't spending so much time getting ready in the morning or like commuting to work. And so that really helped with taking that stress off of my body physically, emotionally, mentally. And so for me, I personally have found that working remote is really healthy for me as a manifestor because I get to go at my own pace. I don't have anyone watching me or micromanaging me. I get to make my own schedule, and I'm pretty disciplined in the sense that I will get my things done. I will get my work done. And so I don't need somebody standing over me. I don't need to go into an office and have people watching me and then being like, okay, well, I don't feel like doing this right now. I want to go do this. And so I'm just throwing that out there for anyone who is a manifestor. If you've ever really considered working from home or working remotely, for me, I prefer to work remotely, and then I go to cafes and stuff during the day if I need to be around other people, especially as a split definition. That's actually really helpful for me and really healthy for me to be around other people. So during that time period, it was like I was continuing to kind of go more into those rest cycles, and I was working with like plant medicine and stuff at the time. And so it was like, I went through like a couple of like these dark nights of the souls and these like time periods where I was really up and down, but I was starting to take more time to rest and not do. And I think it was like the following year or so, where I was just working, and because I was giving myself that rest, I was able to execute or initiate an urge that I had in the back of my mind for like 2 years. I'd been kind of sitting on it. It was for an online yoga course. And when it came through, I was living by myself at the time. And so I had the space in my apartment to be able to execute that and the time to do that. So I was basically recording 3 videos a day and posting those on YouTube, because part of that like plan of me creating this yoga course was to really get my YouTube channel up and going again. And so as I was in that urge, I was feeling super creative. I drew out my entire plan, and I was like, blinders on, was really into it. That went on for like 3, 4, 5 months, and I didn't know when enough was enough, and I kept pushing through, and I was like, no, I need to create more videos for YouTube, and I need to keep doing this. And then I got so burnt out that I just stopped filming completely, and I didn't post on my YouTube channel for, 8 or 9 months, because I was just like so burnt out. And so that was like another rest cycle that I went into for probably another year or so. And at this time I was aware of human design and kind of starting to get an idea of like, okay, like I really just need to chill out and not do much. And I was going through my Saturn return, and so it was very a confusing time period for me as well. But then I'd say about like a year later, I lost my job and decided to move to Mexico. I just bought a one-way ticket to Mexico. And during that time period, it was again another rest cycle for me. And during that rest cycle, I was actually like allowing that creative force to be able to come through me again. And so you're obviously like, you can see this pattern where the less work that I was doing and the less I was pushing myself physically and removing stressors from my life, the more this creative force could flow through me. And during that time period, when I was in Mexico, I started filming yoga videos again. I started actually filming my human design videos, and I started taking on this completely different trajectory of work that I was doing. And within my network as a fourth line, I was presented with contract opportunities. And so it just like everything was like in flow, because I was honoring that rest cycle and I was able to just like chill out. And I do want to say, like, when you're in a rest cycle, especially as a manifestor who has been going like nonstop their entire lives, it can feel very unsettling. And when I say rest cycle, I don't mean like you're just not doing anything. It's just like you're allowing yourself adequate rest. It doesn't mean, I'm not going to work out, I'm not going to do these things. It's just you're going to go at your own pace, and you're going to listen to your authority and do what you feel is best for you. And that might look like a lot of self-care. It might look like getting back into the gym and working out, but going at your own pace and not overdoing it and being like, I need to be at this set schedule every single day. It's more like you're nurturing and nourishing your body in different ways, whether it's through workouts or nutrition, or you're going for long walks. It can look different for every single person, but it's going to be this, you're not going to have like a sense of urgency to get things done or to feel like you need to complete something. So those are how my rest cycles have been. There have been time periods where I'm like, I'm not working, and I'm like, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? And so it can almost feel like you're in this space of like, what do I do with myself? And so the mind is like, oh, I need to do something because I need to be productive. But This is a huge time period for deconditioning, just for anyone in general, because when we're conditioned our entire lives to do something or be a certain way, it's going to feel uncomfortable anytime that we're stepping into the opposite of that. So for me, there was this time period where I kind of oscillated back and forth, and it was like I would go from one extreme and then I would go to the other extreme, and it would be uncomfortable, and then I would go back, and then it was like kind of like balancing out. So now where I'm like, okay, I'm working part-time, I'm resting, but you know, I go through these time periods where I have like these really great ideas, and I recognize that, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit with this because I'm an emotional being and I need to work through my emotional wave. And so it's learning to almost like tame the mind in a sense and not take action on everything that it's telling me to do, and to trust that I have set myself up in a lot of different ways in order to take my rest cycles. And so I really wanted to share my experience because, you know, as we learn about human design, we're like, oh, we need to be doing this. And then we start to pile on these additional emotions of like guilt or shame, or I'm doing this wrong. And it's like, no one's going to be able to just like flip a switch and be like, I'm perfectly living in alignment with my design. And I know people talk about like, oh, you know, it takes 7 years to decondition, like when you're really in the experiment. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not, I don't know. All I know is I can speak for myself and my own process, and it's really just like taking 2 steps forward and sometimes 1 step back, sometimes 3 steps back is what it feels like. And so it requires a lot of grace and compassion for yourself, because it's not going to be perfect, and there's going to be trial and erroring. And as you become more aware of yourself and you become more self-aware, you're going to start choosing decisions that are in alignment for you, and you're going to start following your authority, and things are going to fall away, and things might feel messy, or you might be like, what the heck am I doing? Or I'm feeling burnout. But just know that it's normal and you are not alone, because when we start to live a different way, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. But this is actually very normal, and it's actually very healthy, because you are creating these new neurological connections in your brain, and you are teaching your mind to think a different way, to see the world and perceive it in a different way. You're teaching your body to behave in a different way. You're learning how to calm your nervous system so you're not constantly going. And so there's going to be these highs and these lows and these ups and these downs as you start to balance out and create more coherence within your mind and your body, and as you start listening to your inner authority. So the last thing that I really want to say about rest cycles, being a manifestor, is that simplifying is going to be probably the most helpful tool for you as you're entering into this experiment and you are figuring out what your urges and your rest cycles are like. Every single manifestor is different. I tend to go to pretty big extremes when I get a big urge that comes through, and I'm like super like put my blinders on, I'm head on into that. And then when I go into my rest cycles, I rest hard. And for me, that looks like taking long walks, listening to audiobooks, just reading books, and doing gentle workouts, and just eating lighter foods, and just allowing myself to just be instead of like going hard. And so you can, maybe resting for you is doing weights, or like, you know, finding what works for you, because everyone's going to be different. So I can only speak to myself and what works for me. So maybe you can take some of this and experiment with it. But I really hope that this video has been helpful for you to understand rest cycles and the importance of rest cycles, because this is a very regenerative time for us as manifestors, and we're here to have a really big impact on the world. And we cannot have that full impact unless we are giving ourselves that time to regenerate and to rest and to become aligned with ourselves. And you know, like I said, it takes this time to trial and error and find that balance for ourselves. So I hope that this was helpful, and I'm curious to see what everyone else's experience has been with their urges and their rest cycles. If there are things that I didn't mention in this video that have been, you know, that you might do that I have not mentioned, please leave a comment below so you can help out other manifestors as, you know, they go through their deconditioning journey. We would love to hear about your experience. And if you are not a manifestor and you're here learning about manifestors, I want to thank you so much for coming here to learn so much more about these beautiful types. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I'm curious what your experience has been in observing manifestors as they go through their urges and their rest cycles. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions as well, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you want to go a little bit deeper into your chart and see why some things may match up or not match up because our channels and our incarnation cross, and so much more goes into how we interact and perceive the world and interact with the world. Feel free to go to my website at nina-elise.com and book a reading with me. I would love to go through your chart and help you as you go through your deconditioning journey and come home to yourself. So thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.